It's okay. Anywho, but do keep sharing, your thoughts or whatever comes in between, or if there is any point which is not clear, or if you want to add something from your side, because it's like a shared journey for us all. Okay, good. All right, so we are beginning the study of Gita together, Srimad Bhagavad Gita. And let's see how it goes. So today I'm trying to take us through chapter 1. Let me tell a little bit about Bhagavad Gita. So there are quite a lot of Gitas in Hindu literature. Srimad Bhagavad Gita is one of the widely known and widely popular book, and it's part of the epic of Mahabharat, which is primarily the story of Kauravas and Pandavas, and how within the same family these cousins had this conflict for the kingdom and what transpired. Eventually, in the end of Mahabharat, both the Kauravas and the Pandavas, they are on the verge of having a fight with each other, and there are other kingdoms who are supporting each of the party. And right at that juncture, before this fight takes place, Lord Krishna gives this Gita sermon to Arjun. So it has 18 chapters, or what is called as 18 Adhyay in Sanskrit. First chapter is primarily the what we call as the setting creation, like what is the context of Gita, and why Krishna gave this sermon to Arjun and what sort of transpired. So it begins at the point where both the armies of Kauravas and Pandavas are in front of each other. And Gita is told in a narrative way. So what happened is Dhritarashtra, who was the father of Kauravas and uncle of Pandavas, couldn't see. He was blind, but he was very keen. He wanted to know like what is happening in the fight. So Rishi Vyas gave some power to his what do we call it? His counsel, Sanjay. That Sanjay
Sarthi, right?
No, Sanjay was his counsel. He was his minister.
Okay.
Sarthi was Krishna to Arjun in Gita. So Sanjay was his minister, and Rishi Vyas gave him a power that he would be able to sort of witness and watch what is happening in Kurukshetra, where this fight was to happen, and he'll be able to relay sort of a commentary to Dhritarashtra. It's something like a live telecast that happens these days on TV. So he had that visual power and capacity. So the first chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita begins with Dhritarashtra's verse, where it says Dhritarashtra Uvach, which means Dhritarashtra speaks. And he speaks to Sanjay, of course. He says, Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samveta yuyutsavah mamakaha pandavaschaiva kim kurvat Sanjay. So he's asking Sanjay that, dear Sanjay, and Kurukshetra is the name of the place where this fight sort of happened, and it's also called Dharam Kshetra, which means the land of Dharma. So in the land of Dharma, Kurukshetra, my Mamakaha means my sons, and Pandavaschay, which means Pandav Putra, which means his brother was Pandu, and his sons were called as Panduputra or Pandavas. So he's basically asking Sanjay, like, Sanjay, please tell me what is happening in this land, Kurukshetra, where my sons and Pandu's sons have gathered for the purpose to fight each other. And then second verse, Sanjay Uwach. Now Sanjay speaks, Drishta tu Pandavanekam Vyudham Duryodhanastada Acharyam Upsamgama Raja Vachanam Bravit. संजय कहता है, हे राजन, पांडु पुत्रों द्वारा सेना की व्यूह रचना देख राजा दुर्योधन अपने गुरु के पास गया और उसने ये शब्द कहे. So now he's starting to narrate the incident, what is happening. And in this one, he speaks about basically Duryodhan, who is the eldest son of Dhritarashtra and who was his favorite. And so he had a lot of affinity for his son. So now Sanjay is also a wise minister and a counsel, so he can understand the agitation which is happening in Dhritarashtra. Basically, he wants to know about his son and what he's doing and what is happening out there. So he begins his conversation and narration from the point of view of Duryodhan. That Duryodhan, who is sort of observing the army of Pandavas, and then he goes to his guru and says something. And his guru is Dronacharya, who is also Pandava's guru. So he's the same teacher who taught both Kauravas and Pandavas, and he taught them about fighting and about all the other kind of knowledge. So he's like the common teacher amongst them. And it's interesting that Duryodhan chooses to go and speak to the guru. And we'll figure out like why it is interesting and what he says. And now, whatever verses we are going to be reading are the verses which Sanjay is telling Dhritarashtra. Pashyatam Panduputranam Acharya Mehtim Chamum Vyudham Drupad Putren Tav Shishyen Dhimata. He says, हे आचार्य, पांडु पुत्रों की विशाल सेना को देखें, जिसे आपके बुद्धिमान शिष्य द्रुपद के पुत्र ने इतने कौशल से व्यवस्थित किया है. So he is sort of telling, but also telling it with a lot of sarcasm to his own guru, that see, it's your own disciple who has arranged such a vast, such a huge army for Pandus. So in a way, he's taunting him that he did not choose his disciples wisely. And this speaks quite a lot about Duryodhan as a character, as an individual. So right from the get-go, it sort of tells us, whereas he is also there fighting, but in a way he is taunting the guru. And Drupad here is Draupadi's brother. Draupadi is Pandava's wife, and Drupad is her brother. So, and he was also Dronacharya's shishya. In the next verse, he says, Atra Shura Maheshwasa Bhim Arjun Samayudhi Yuyudhano Viratascha Drupadascha Maharatha. इस सेना में भीम तथा अर्जुन के समान युद्ध करने वाले अनेक वीर धनुर्धर हैं, यथा महारथी युयुधान, विराट और द्रुपद. Now it's interesting to see that Duryodhan compares all the other mighty fighters who are standing opposite to them with the Bhim and Arjun, because Duryodhan is only aware of the power and the skill of Bhim and Arjun. And so he compares everybody else to them and is just indicating to his guru like who all have come here to fight. Then he says, Drishta Ketu Shvetikana Kashi Rajascha Viryavan Purujit Kunti Bhojascha Shaivyascha Narpungavaha. इनके साथ ही दृष्टकेतु, चेतिकान, काशीराज, पुरोजित, कुंती भोज तथा शव्य जैसे महान शक्तिशाली योद्धा भी हैं. So now he's just seeing who all have come. युधमन्युश्च विक्रांत उत्तमोजाश्च वीर्यवान् सौभद्रो द्रौपदेयाश्च सर्व एव महारथः। पराक्रमी युधमन्यु, अत्यंत शक्तिशाली उत्तमौजा, सुभद्रा का पुत्र तथा द्रौपदी के पुत्र, ये सभी महारथी हैं। अस्माकं तु विशिष्टा ये तन्निबोध द्विजोतमः नायकामं सैन्यस्य संज्ञार्थ तान् ब्रवीमि ते। किंतु हे ब्राह्मण श्रेष्ठ, आपकी सूचना के लिए मैं अपनी सेना के उन नायकों के विषय में बताना चाहता हूं जो मेरी सेना को संचालित करने में विशेष रूप से निपुण हैं। So he's been sort of witnessing and noticing and telling about who all are there in Pandava's side to fight against them. And then he turns towards his own army. And now he wants to tell that it's okay. Yes, there are quite a lot of mighty warriors in the opposite army, but we also have a lot of people. And now he's going to explain like who all are there in his army. Bhavan, Bhishma, Karnascha, Kripascha, Samitinjaya, Ashwathama, Vikarnascha, Somadtisthav cha. Bhavan, so he begins with him and he say, Aap, that means you are there. Bhishma, that is Bhishma Pitama, Karna, Vikarna, Kripacharya, Ashwathama, Somdatta ka putra Bhurishrava. These all people are mighty warriors. They have always won in the wars. So he points to his guru, his Bhishma Pitama, who's their like grandfather, Karn, Vikarn, and a whole lot of other people. And he also points out that these people have never lost in any war. That means it proves that they are mighty warriors. Anye cha bahvah shurah madarthe tyakta jivitah nana shastra praharanah sarve yuddha visharada. And then he says, and we have many more. Shurah, that means the veer, that means courageous fighters who are ready to leave their life for my sake. Nana Shastra Praharana means they are capable of using different kind of, what do we call Shastra? I'm at the loss of words. What do we call Shastras?
Shastra is just like a weapon, no?
Weapons. Oh, yes. Oh my God. Okay. So,
and in Harry Potter world, it could be the spells.
The spells. Yes. So he says that, and there are so many courageous, mighty warriors in my army who are just ready to lay their life for me, for my sake, who know how to use so many different weapons and who are also expert in their skill or the masters of their skills. Aparyaptam tadasmakam balam bhishma bhirakshitam paryaptam tvidmeshit tesham balam bhim abhirakshitam. So in this one he says that हमारी शक्ति अपरिमेय है और हम सब पितामह द्वारा भली भांति संचारित हैं, जबकि पांडवों की शक्ति भीम द्वारा भली भांति संरक्षित होकर भी सीमित है. Now here again he makes a comparison. He says that our might is like unparalleled. No, nobody can balance. And he says that Bhishma Pitama, who's their grandfather, he was he was leading the entire army into the battle, and he said that our might is like limitless, whereas Pandavas also have like mighty warriors, but their power is still very limited because it's, and he does take the name of Bhim again, and he says that although Bhim is sort of leading Pandav side into the war, but still they are pretty limited in their might. So So just before the war, when he is, observing and witnessing and taking into account like who they are going to fight, he is beginning with undermining the capacities and capabilities of his, um, so-called opponents whom they have to fight. And this again also tells us about his mindset, his characteristics, and the person that he is.
So, Komal, this is purely out of arrogance that he's undermining. As you said, it almost displays his character, or is it actually an assessment? Because especially Bhishma Pitama was like revered among everyone that the kind of powers he had. So, what is coming through this? And was it like really Bhim who was leading the war?
So in the wars during those days, so what all these warriors would say is that they would always choose one who was called as Senapati or Senadipati, a person who would not be participating so actively in the war, but would be strategizing for the war. So Kaurav chose Bhishma Pitama to be that strategist for their war. And then he, again, because he only understands the power of Arjun or Bhim, he doesn't even consider anybody else equal to themselves. So his comparison points is either Bhim or Arjun. That's why he picks up Bhim. And it's a good question when you ask, like, is it purely out of arrogance? So I would say arrogance as well. And there are other deeper, nuances of human behavior as well. Because one, yes, Duryodhan is arrogant and he's coming from that mindset, but he is also there to win the war. So at any level, he just wants to win. Whereas when he sees and makes an observation of the army, he cannot like undermine them. He knows that there are people on the Pandav Paksh or Pandava side as well who are mighty warriors, who are very skillful. But still, he feels that little need of, boosting himself because he so wants to win. So he's just telling his mind that, oh, we're going to win. Nothing doing. We are the mighty. We've got everybody on our side who's more skilled, who have never lost. So, it's a kind of a justification mindset happening right at the beginning of something.
Yeah.
Which also conveys us that somewhere deep down he really need to feel that yes, he is going to actually win.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
And
out of his pride and arrogance, he will not admit that he's a little taken on a back foot by looking at the mighty army that Pandavas have also put in front of them.
thanks, Komal. Yeah, there are those layers out there.
Then he says, Ayaneshu cha sarveshu yatha bhagam avasthitah Bhishma ev abhirakshantu bhavantah sarva eva hi. अतएव सैन्य सब व्यूह में अपने अपने मोर्चों पर खड़े रहकर आप सभी भीष्म पितामह को पूरी पूरी सहायता दें. Now this is also a very interesting part. Like in first one, he says that he undermines the might of Pandavas, and now he says, so we are like well governed by Bhishma Pitama. So in all your places, you guys or all of you just give your support to Bhishma Pitama. Although he says that, but it's a sort of a projection. He is seeking sort of a more support for himself than really Bhishma Pitama. He doesn't really need to say this because everybody in his army knows what they are there to do and who is the person guiding them and how they need to support. And then after that, what happens is Tasya Sanjayam Yaharsham Kuru Vruddha Pritamaha Singhanadam Vinododhyam Shankham Dadmo Pratapavan. तब कुरुवंश के वयोवृद्ध परम प्रतापी अमृत पितामह ने सिंह गर्जना की सी ध्वनि करने वाले अपने शंख को उच्च स्वर में बजाया, जिससे दुर्योधन को हर्ष हुआ. Now, just when he is saying that and explaining all of this to Dronacharya, Bhishma Pitama, of course, is there and he's listening into this, and he is somehow able to sense a little anxiety rising up in Duryodhan. So, to keep his motivation high or to show his support, what he does is he takes his conch and he blows his conch very highly. And with that noise, Duryodhan becomes really pleased because it sort of brings him some kind of a support and encouragement that, yes, he is with me and we have the strength. Now, I also want to point out here, because now after this, in some of the verses, it will narrate like how after Bhishma Pitama sort of blew his conch, everybody in Pandav's side also then they initiate the war, blowing their own conches. And in old times, when wars used to happen, there used to be a lot of these conch and a lot of other sort of instruments like percussion, nagaras, and all of those that used to be blown. And because all that sound used to be to, motivate the people and bring up their spirits high, and so sort of initiate that, yes, something is now going to happen. And also, all the people, all the warriors used to have their own shells or conch, which they would always keep, which was a kind of, uh, a signature or telling people that, yes, I'm here or I'm participating in this. So each one of them would sort of blow their conches. So tatah shankhaschah bhairyashah पणवान गोमुखः सहसवाभ्यन्तः सशब्दस्तुमोल भवतः. तत्पश्चात शंख नगाड़े बुगुल तुरही तथा सींग सहसा एक साथ बज उठे. वह संवेद स्वर अत्यंत कोलाहलपूर्ण था. So like I said, shankh, nagade, bugle, and a whole lot of other instruments just started to play on the Kaurav side of army and created a lot of cacophony and a lot of noise. ततः श्वेतर्य युक्ते महती स्यन्दने स्थितो माधवः पांडवश्च दिव्यो शंखो प्रद्यमतु. दूसरी ओर से श्वेत घोड़ों द्वारा खींचे जाने वाले विशाल रथ पर आसीन कृष्ण तथा अर्जुन ने अपने अपने दिव्य शंख बजाए. Now, when Kaurav army have initiated by blowing their conch and making noise, then of course Pandavas have to respond as well. So Krishna and Arjun, they both initiate by blowing their own conch as well. Panchjanyam Hrishikesho Devadattam Dhananjayah Pondram Dadmo Mahashank Bhim Karma Vrikodaraha. Now, it's also saying that all of these people have their own conches and they are named as well. It says that Bhagwan Krishna ने अपना पांचजन्य शंख बजाया, अर्जुन ने देवदत्त शंख तथा अति भोजी एवं अति मानवीय कार्य करने वाले भीम ने पुंड्रु नामक भयंकर शंख बजाया. So all these people have their own conches and they are named and they have these different sounds which are sort of, I think, relating and connecting to their individual personalities too. So basically it says that they indicated their presence in the war, and then after that 3 verses are all about like how all the other different kings and warriors also blew their conch and sort of created a lot of noise. Anant Vijayam Raja Kunti Putro Yudhishthirah Nakulah Sadevascha Sughosh Mani Pushpako Kashyascha Parmeshwasah Shikhandi cha Maharatha Drishtadumno Viratascha Satyaki शापराजितः द्रुपदो द्रौपदेयाश्च सर्वश्च पृथिवीपते सौभद्रश्च महाबाहु शंखान दद्मु पृथक पृथक, which says that राजा युधिष्ठिर ने अपना अनंत विजय नामक शंख बजाया, नकुल और सहदेव ने सुघोष एवं मणिपुष्पक शंख बजाए, काशीराज परम योद्धा शिखंडी धृष्टद्युम्न विराट अजेय सात्यकी द्रुपद द्रौपदी के पुत्र तथा सुभद्रा के महाबाहु पुत्र आदि सभी ने अपने अपने शंख बजाए. So everybody sort of announced their presence in the war. सघोषो धार्तराष्ट्राणां हृदयानि व्यदारत् नभश्च पृथ्वीं च एव तुमुलो अभ्युनुत्थायन. जैसे इन विभिन्न शंखों की ध्वनि कोलाहलपूर्ण बन गई, जो आकाश तथा पृथ्वी को शब्दायमान करती हुई धृतराष्ट्र के पुत्रों के हृदय को विदीर्ण करने लगी. So it says that with all of these conch shells blowing and all of that noise creating, the noise sort of pervaded the earth and the skies, and it sort of started to petrify. Dhritarashtra ke putra means Kauravas, so it started to petrify Kauravas. At
Can I
vyavasthitam.
ask a question?
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Komal, would you be able to comment how these conches are characteristic to each one of them? Because this is for the first time. Because what I've heard is a general sound of the shank. And I didn't know that there is one Anandamay and one is Manikmay, whatever that language you're saying. So do they sound different? Do they look different? How is the distinction there? I mean, only if you're able to comment. I know this can be very generic question also.
No, I think it's something like earlier you mentioned about Harry Potter. So just like in Harry Potter, everybody sort of chooses their wand or something like that, right? So everybody has a unique wand to choose. So I think in those old days, especially for the warriors how would you announce that you are there or you are present, or that I think would also be a way to communicate a lot of things, because not in Bhagavad Gita but in Mahabharat there are instances where when the fight happens it just doesn't stay in one area. There are people who can go to different areas, and when you do not know whether somebody is safe after the war, what is the way of communicating it to people? So you would use that conch, which has a specific voice or a specific sound, which everybody sort of identify and say that, oh, this is that person's conch. So I think you choose your specific shank and you blow it in a certain way which is unique to you, which tells that, okay, this shank belongs to this person only. So I think in wartime, it is also a way to communicate or to conversate with different people.
Yeah, interesting. In the absence of mobile phones, I think this was so they all had figured out their communication systems.
Yes. And seeing that every king had their own specific shank, and that they would identify their shank's voice as well, along with their voice, and saying that, okay, so this is this person. So that's interesting.
It's reminding me of Lord of the Rings, like a lot of this description, because the most grand war scenes I've seen in Lord of the Rings. And it's
Yeah.
been many years. But yeah, I mean, not necessarily everyone had an identifying instrument or something, but something distinguishing, like this person will always come on a white horse or has like, so you know that one of the main characters is present or is supporting a certain army, which was changeable in their context. So yeah, that's I didn't grow up watching Mahabharata, so it's my reference has been Lord of the Rings or even Harry Potter, like you said.
I know.
Yes.
I know, that's interesting. And there was also these rules like, so the conch would be blown at certain different occasions, one at the initiation of war every day. So it was a rule that during the nighttime there will not be any war. So war will begin in early in the morning with sunrise, and with sunset the war will be over. Both the sides of armies will go into their own tents and would rest, and then the next day they'll again come for the war. So one, at the initiation of war every day, the conch will be blown to initiate, and then at the time of sunset to indicate that now the war time is over, go back to your own tents. And then in between, during the war, if some specific incident has happened, like some key person or warrior is killed or hurt or something, so then again, like a celebration, the one who sort of wins that part of the war would blow their conch and declare that, I've won or something like that. And people would understand like what it really means to blow your shank and what you want to convey. So it's interesting. So now they've sort of declared that, okay, we are present here, we are ready for the war. So now in the next section, so far Duryodhan has taken the assessment of the armies. Now Arjun will do the same. And we will see what sort of mindset and what sort of characteristics he portrays while he is taking an assessment of who are the enemy, warriors and who he's going to fight. At vyavasthita drishta dhartrashtra rashtran kapidhvaj pravritte shastra sampate dhanurdhamya pandavah Rishikesham tada vakyam idam aha mahipate. So in that time, when everybody is blowing their conch, Arjun sees all the Kauravas standing there in their own. So there is a specific word used in this which is called as vyuh. Now, vyuh is a specific formation in which the army is standing or placed. And these formations were very important for the fights because those formations are like strategies, like in what form our army will move and in which direction and how we are going to fight and assess. And every good warrior would like to go ahead and take an assessment of the formation of the enemy so that they can understand what probably is the enemy's strategy before they begin the war. So here in this particular verse, Arjun looks at the formation of the Kaurav armies and he tells Krishna this. And before he tells, we are given an indication of like the rath in which Arjun is going to be fighting, and his Sarthi is Sri Krishna. So his rath had what do we call that? Dhanu Pataka or flag. So his flag has Hanuman's picture on it, and that's how it's identified that this is Arjun's chariot, and his charioteer is Lord Krishna. So at this time, when everybody is making these noises, Arjun tells to Shri Krishna, and what he tells is in the next verse. Arjun Uvach. Now Arjun speaks. Senyo ubhyo madhye ratham sthapya me achyut yavat etan nirikshe aham yodh kaman avasthitan kai maya sah yodhvavyam asmin ran samudyame. So Arjun tells Shri Krishna that hey Achyut. Achyut is also Shri Krishna's name, so he takes that name and say, hey Achyut, कृपा करके मेरा रथ दोनों सेनाओं के बीच में ले चलें, जिससे मैं यहाँ युद्ध की अभिलाषा रखने वालों को और उनके शस्त्रों की महान परीक्षा में जिनसे मुझे संघर्ष करना है उन्हें देख सकूं. So what Arjun says to Krishna is that please bring my chariot in the middle of both the armies so that I can clearly see who all have come to fight us and what sort of strategy they have formed. Yotasyam manan avekshe aham ye ete atra samagatah धार्तराष्ट्रस्य दुर्बुद्धेः युद्धे प्रिय चिकीर्षवः. मुझे उन लोगों को देखने दीजिए जो यहाँ पर धृतराष्ट्र के दुर्बुद्धि पुत्र को प्रसन्न करने की इच्छा से लड़ने के लिए आए हुए हैं. Now here, the way Arjun says, he wants to see like who all have come to fight for Duryodhan, and he used the words durbuddhi, which means somebody whose wisdom is not good, is like who's not thinking right or thinking straight. And this verse sort of shows that Arjun is really not happy with the idea or the decision of this war. And a little pretext and a backstory to this is that Pandavas and Kauravas Pandavas had their own kingdom and Kauravas had their own kingdom. But then Kauravas invited Pandavas for some game or play, and in which they played very deceitfully and they sort of won their kingdom, and they told them to go away in the forest for 14 years. And when after 14 years they came back, the Kauravas denied that they will not give back their kingdom to the Pandavas. And so Pandavas even said that just give us 5 villages and we'll be only happy with that, keep the rest of the kingdoms. But Duryodhan said, no, nothing doing. I will not even give you 1 inch of the land, and go and do whatever you have to do. So then Pandava said that if you will not agree peacefully, then we'll have to fight with you. And they said, yes, fight. And that is why the fight sort of ensued. And so a whole lot of conversation happened, and even Krishna was sent by Pandavas as a messenger to Kauravas. But everybody tried to convince Duryodhan that, there is nothing good that will come out of the war. You make peace with Pandavas and give them whatever is their due. But he didn't want to. So that is why now when he says that, let me see who all have come to please this Duryodhan. So there is a little bit of a pain and an anguish in his words when he says this. Then Sanjay says, Evam ukto hrishikesho gudakeshen bharatah senyorubhabhyor madhye sthapyatva ratho tamam. संजय ने कहा, हे भरतवंशी, अर्जुन द्वारा इस प्रकार संबोधित किए जाने पर भगवान कृष्ण ने दोनों दलों के बीच में उस उत्तम रथ को लाकर खड़ा कर दिया. So he just simply narrates that what Krishna did, he heard Arjun and then he took the chariot and placed it right in the middle of both the armies. भीष्म द्रोण प्रमुखतः सर्वेषां च महीक्षिताम् उवाच पार्थ पश्येतान् समवेता कुरुनीति. भीष्म द्रोण तथा विश्व भर के अन्य समस्त राजाओं के सामने भगवान ने कहा कि हे पार्थ, यहाँ पर एकत्र सारे कुरुओं को देखो. So Krishna tells Arjun that fine, here is the chariot. Now just see all the Kurus who have gathered here to fight you. Tatra apashyat sthitan parthah pitrin ath pitamahan acharyavan matulan bhratrin putran potran sakhin tatha shvasuran suhrad cha eva सेनयो उभयो अपि। अर्जुन ने वहां पर दोनों पक्षों की सेनाओं के मध्य में अपने चाचा ताऊओं, पितामहों, गुरुओं, मामाओं, भाइयों, पुत्रों, पौत्रों, मित्रों, ससुरों और शुभचिंतकों को भी देखा। So now what Arjun sees and how it is narrated is that he is seeing all his relatives, his grandfather, his teacher, his cousins, his uncles, his nephews, his friends, and he's just seeing everybody. तान् समीक्ष्य स कौन्तेयः सर्वान् बद्धुना अवस्थितान् कृपया पर्याविष्टो विषीदत्रिदं ब्रवीत। अब कुंती पुत्र अर्जुन ने मित्रों तथा संबंधियों की इन विभिन्न श्रेणियों को देखा तो वह करुणा से अभिभूत हो गया और इस प्रकार बोला। Now this tells his mindset that when he saw all of these friends and relatives standing opposite him in the enemy army, ready to fight with him, his heart got filled of kindness. And then he said, Arjun Uvach, Arjun speaks, Drishtavamevam Swajanam Krishna Yuyutsum Samupasthitam Sidanti Mam Ganani Mukham Cha Parishushyati। अर्जुन ने कहा, हे कृष्ण, इस प्रकार युद्ध की इच्छा रखने वाले अपने मित्रों तथा संबंधियों को अपने समक्ष उपस्थित देखकर मेरे शरीर के अंग कांप रहे हैं और मेरा मुंह सूखा जा रहा है। Now he's just explaining what is happening to him, what is happening inside his body, what he's observing. And he says that the people who are standing in front of me are my friends and relatives, and looking at them is making my entire body quiver and my mouth is dry. वेपयुश्च शरीरे मे रोम हर्षश्च जायते गांडीवम संस्कृते हस्तातत कचैव परिदह्यते। मेरा सारा शरीर कांप रहा है, मेरे रोंगटे खड़े हो रहे हैं, मेरा गांडीव धनुष मेरे हाथ से सरक रहा है और मेरी त्वचा जल रही है। So he's having such a visceral response, such a full-bodied response to what he's noticing, that the people who are standing in front of him and who he's going to fight in some time are his friends and relatives. So his body is shaking, his skin is burning, and then Gandhi, which is the name of his dhanush or his weapon, he says that I don't have power to hold my weapon in my hand. It's just falling away from my hand. Na cha shaknomi avasthatutam bhramati iv cha me manah nimityani cha pashyami viparitani keshavah। मैं यहाँ अब और अधिक खड़ा रहने में असमर्थ हूँ, मैं अपने को भूल रहा हूँ और मेरा सिर चकरा रहा है। हे कृष्ण, मुझे तो केवल अमंगल के कारण दिख रहे हैं। So he's saying, I can't even stand here. I have no life left inside me. I'm just forgetting everything. My head is spinning and I don't think anything good is going to come out of it. And it's interesting to see that all of this is not happening because he's not a mighty warrior or he's a coward or he's not courageous. All of that is happening because he's so overcome with kindness and compassion in his heart, because the people who are standing in front of me, he is relating to them like his friends and his relatives, and he's just contemplating the idea that he's going to be fighting with them. So he says, Na cha shreyah anupashyami hatva swajanam ahave na kankshe vijayam Krishna na cha rajyam sukhani cha। हे कृष्ण, इस युद्ध में अपने ही स्वजनों का वध करने से न तो मुझे कोई अच्छाई दिखती है और न मैं उससे किसी प्रकार की विजय, राज्य या सुख की इच्छा रखता हूँ। So now he's starting to speak. So far, we've only been getting to know about his visceral, his body responses, like what's happening in him. And now he's giving words to his feelings that he's overcome with. So, what he basically says is that these are my only people. I do not wish to kill them or to win over them. And even if I will win my kingdom by killing them, it will not bring me any peace or any sukh.
I have a question.
Yeah.
This will come up later, but isn't there another sentiment or feeling like these are my people and they know I'm here, but all of my people are standing against me? Like they're also ready to fight me. So isn't there like disappointment in that? Like I feel a certain way in fighting my people, and that's not going to give me any satisfaction. But it's also like, okay, all of these people that are my friends and my family, they are also willingly standing against me to fight me.
Now, if you notice, very interestingly, in the initial, when he asks Krishna to bring his chariot in the middle, he has a little bit of an anguish inside him. And he's like, I just want to see who all have come to fight from his side to me. So there's a little bit of an anger and anguish against those people that you've come to fight me. Come on. But
Yeah.
now, when he sees them, his response is like more internalized. His response is more to him like, okay, so like, what am I here to do? He is not in a blame state at all where he feels like, oh, you guys have come here to fight me. Although there was a little bit of an anger initially when he moved ahead. But now that he has taken a step, he's more internalizing. He's more like, oh, what will I get out of fighting or killing with with these people? And that in itself speaks quite a lot about his character. That speaks that he is a warrior. He's a person who's taking the ownership of his own action and his own steps. So he's not in a state of a blame. He's rather in a state of ownership where he feels like, I am here to fight these people, and these are my people, and what good is going to come out of this fight for me? So he's more introspective.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah, now that Jessica asked this question, I realized that it's so much like कि मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ, दूसरे क्या कर रहे हैं, वहां नहीं है मेरा ध्यान, मैं क्या कर,
exactly. And
that
these
speaks a lot.
and these little nuances, will tell us quite a lot. And that's a very good point that Jessica has picked up, because you know a knowledge or a wisdom like Gita, and that too from Shri Krishna, comes to somebody who is deserving, who is well deserving of that knowledge. And in order to be deserving of that knowledge, you got to possess some qualities in you. And this is a huge quality in Arjun, that even in the middle of this fight, where he knows that this fight is thrust upon the Pandavas, they did not want to go into a war, but they had no choice. They had to get into a war. Otherwise, Duryodhan wasn't ready to give them anything, and nobody could convince him. So he has a right to be in that situation where he can blame everybody, but he's not blaming. He is only contemplating his own action. So his focus is more on his own action and his own mindset and his own way of thinking and being, which we'll see how it sort of culminates. So in the next few verses, we'll just notice what he says, what he speaks. Kim no rajyen govind, kim bhogair jiviten va. Yesham arthe kankshitam, no rajyam bhoga sukhani cha. Ta ime avasthita yuddhe, pranansya tyaktava dhanani cha, acharyah pitarah putrasthaiv cha pitamaha. Matulah shwasura pautrasyalah sambandhinastha etan Hantum ichhami granot api Madhusudan. Api त्रैलोक्य राज्यस्य हेतुः किम नु मही कृते निहत्य धार्तराष्ट्रात्र का प्रीति स्यानार्दन. So he's having all sort of questions now in his mind. He says, "Hey Govind, हमें राज्य सुख अथवा इस जीवन से क्या लाभ? क्योंकि जिन सारे लोगों के लिए हम उन्हें चाहते हैं वो ही इस युद्ध भूमि में खड़े हैं। जब गुरुजन, पितृगण, पुत्र, पितामह, मामा, ससुर, पौत्रगण, साले, ये सारे संबंधी अपना धन और प्राण देने के लिए तत्पर हैं और मेरे समक्ष खड़े हैं, तो फिर मैं इन सबको मारना क्यों चाहूं? भले ही वो मुझे मार डालें, मैं इन सब लोगों से लड़ने को तैयार नहीं हूं, भले ही बदले में मुझे तीनों लोग क्यों ना मिले। इस पृथ्वी की तो बात ही छोड़ दें, भला धृतराष्ट्र के पुत्रों को मारकर हमें कौन सी प्रसन्नता मिलेगी?" So now he's questioning, like, for whom am I going to be wanting to win this war when I would kill all of these relatives with whom I will enjoy life or with whom I will enjoy this kingdom. So he says that it's okay, even if I don't get a kingdom, I'm fine, but I don't want to kill any of them. So he finds that this fight is worthless, it's useless. पापम एव आश्रयेत अस्मान हत्वा एतान आततायिनः तस्मात् न अहा वयम हन्तुम धर्तराष्ट्रान् सबान्धवान् स्वजनम ही कथम हत्वा सुखिनः स्याम माधव. यदि हम ऐसे आतताइयों का वध करते हैं तो हम पर पाप चढ़ेगा, अतः यह उचित नहीं होगा कि हम धृतराष्ट्र के पुत्रों तथा उनके मित्रों का वध करें. हे लक्ष्मीपति कृष्ण, इससे हमें क्या लाभ होगा और अपने ही कुटुंबियों को मारकर हम किस प्रकार सुखी हो सकते हैं? So see, now his thought process is going on the right and wrong of this, like what would be pap and what would be punya karma. And then he's having now this dilemma coming up in his mind that is it even a right decision to take? Even if it is right, like, so one aspect of it is like, I will not be able to enjoy this win by killing all my people. And then he goes into a higher moral ground and saying that it will not even be punya karma, it will be a pap karma if I kill my own people. Next he says, यदि अपि एते न पश्यन्ति लोभः अपहित चेतसः कुलक्षय कृतं दोषं मित्रदोहे च पातकं कथं न ज्ञेयम् अस्माभिः पापात् अस्मात् निवर्तितुं कुलक्षय कृतं दोषं प्रपश्यति जनार्दन. And then he says, hey Janardhan, यद्यपि लोभ से अभिभूत चित्त वाले ये लोग अपने परिवार को मारने या मित्र से द्रोह करने में द्वेष नहीं देखते, पर हम लोग जो परिवार को विनष्ट करने में अपराध देख सकते हैं, ऐसे पाप कर्मों में प्रवृत्त क्यों हों? So here he is trying to, increase his argument with more feelings and saying, like, if they cannot see like what's harm in fighting, but we understand and we see, so we shouldn't be participating. So see, his internal introspection is coming out in all kind of rhymes and reasons which he's trying to build up against this fight. So that was till verse 38.
Wow. So we covered quite a bit.
Yeah. So this is the state where he is still sort of, and it is so interesting, it happens with us as well. Like when we are in such a dilemma where we have to take some decision, we sort of try to look at it from all the different angles of a personal gain or a moralistic point of view or a more socially acceptable point of view, and all of that is happening with Arjun right now. I think
I also had the same thoughts, that when we stand against our own people for something, this
yeah,
thing always crosses our mind कि ये मैं कर रहा हूँ तो मैं enjoy किसके साथ करूंगा फिर अगर इन्हीं से दूर हो जाऊंगा.
exactly. So let's close it today here, because I think the time is over and we didn't even realize that it's already this much.
If you can stop the recording, we can say goodbye to you as well.
Okay. So I'm stopping the recording now.